Good morning to student. Today we are interesting to discuss important concept in project management is float under unit 4 lesson number 5. Before going to know the total details of the float, first of all you should get the meaning about the float. Float is sometimes called as a slack. Both are having time delay. Time delay at the activity is called float. Time delay at the slack is called another concept. Time delay at event is called slack. That is, practically the time was not completed by the project. There is a difference between the estimated time and reality time due to so many problems, that is natural problems and non-natural problems, economic problems and non-economic problems. Whatever it may be, the project activity was not completed within the estimated time. There is a gap between the estimated time and actual time. This is known as float. It is a technical word. That means time variation between the estimated time and the actual time taken over by one activity. Here, the condition is without changing of the total project time, there is a delay or there is a variation between the actual time and the estimated time. The variation is called float. This is general or this is a common in project management. This can be determined to take the further actions or precautions how to remove the variation or project delay. That is, float sometimes called as slack is the amount of time an activity, network path or project can be delayed from the early start without changing the completion date of the project. It is the difference between the finish date of the last activity on the critical path and the project completion date. During the float time, an activity can be delayed without delaying the project finishing date. Float is the amount of time that a task in a project network can be delayed without causing a delay to subsequent task project completion. That means here one activity is delayed which should not be relating to other activity. May be delayed or may not be delayed. Delay can be happen anywhere. There is no continuity of the delay from one activity to another activity. Let us go to know one definition on float. According to Jeff Castillo, float is the amount of time that a task can be delayed without affecting the deadline of other subsequent tasks, or the project's final delivery date includes the difference between the project completion date and the total duration of critical path activities. Here, we noted that without affecting the deadline is the total schedule of the project. That means there is no any affecting of the subsequent activities. Delay to be happen anywhere. It should not be continued. In other words, you have a project to finish in 25 days. Your calculated critical path activities on the scheduled network diagram take 22 days. So you have a project float of favorable 3 days plus 3 days. It may be minus or it may be plus. Here it is a plus, means favorable. Let us go to know purpose or features of float in project management. Yes, it is having its own importance. Otherwise, you are not able to judge the project completion. Sometimes we are not able to identify the delay. It leads to failure of the project. That means more expenses than it will be goes to losses. It is one of the technique which can be used to know what is the progress and what is the variation, what is the default in each and every stage, can be called as each and every activity. Let us go to see one after another. The first purpose or advantage is risk analysis. Yes, whenever you are handling the project, there are unknown incidents. For example, floods, earthquakes, or strikes, blackouts, shortage of material, heavy rains, etc. These are the risks. Against these risks, we will go to take the precaution. How it is possible? First of all, identify the length of the delay. That means duration of the delay. Then it will go to take appropriate solution by the project manager. That is, optimization of flow used in risk analysis based on network scheduling. However, when the time uncertainties of non-critical activities are great, the use of floats lead to changes in project costs associated with the impact of the use of floats on the duration. Accordingly, the optimum use of the float is identified. Yes, it is a one tool which can be identify the optimum use of floats. That means optimum delayed period can be identified. Why? Because we should know the progress of the project work. The second one is amount of free time associated. That means here, whenever you are launching a project, doing a project, it is a continuous process until to last task, last activity. Where a delay was happened, which will go to take in a idle time. That means free time. That means no work time, idle time, which can be identified. Why? Because during the idle time, what is the position of the project activities with respect to material, with respect to labor, with respect to money. These all are assessed or rescheduled. Why? Because delay is harmful on part of the project completion. That is, it refers to the amount of free time associated with an activity which can be used before, during or after the performance of this activity. Total float is the positive difference between the earliest finishing time and the latest finishing time, or the positive difference between the earliest starting time and the latest starting time of an activity, depending on which way it is defined. Here, both ways. Total float is the positive difference between the earliest finishing time and the latest finishing time, or vice versa. Sometimes this can also apply. That is earliest starting time and latest starting time. That means one is a latest and another one is a earliest. Whatever may be, the two equations are taken by the experts to know the float. The next one is minimize the total cost and the total maintenance time. Yes, float means delay. What is the reason of the delay? How it will be goes to prevent it? What extent the length of the delay is affected by the completion of the project? What is the effect on subsequent activity? These all are assessed when it is identified. Whenever you are identified the delay, for example, in one activity, actual time is 9 days. It was actual time completed 10 days. 1 day minus delay. Then it will be goes to take any precaution. Then it will be goes to maintain a one committee to identify the causes, reasons, and pros and cons of the 1 day delay. Whenever you are taking such type of precautions, minimization of the total cost. During the delay time, you will be goes to reduce the total cost of the project. Total maintenance cost also. Unnecessary maintenance cost is prevented or making a stop by the project manager. That is, network analysis helps management to minimize the total cost and the total maintenance time. With the use of network analysis, cost of production can be minimized through reducing the maintenance time. Network analysis ensures the effective utilization of limited resources. Yes, resources are very scarce, particularly finance, money. In such situation, during the delay time, the money will be goes to strictly maintained or making some accountability during the delayed time. The next one is help to new deadlines. Whenever we are identified the delay, reasons for delay, causes for delay, effect of delay, then it is a possibility to make a further deadline, further new schedule of a one activity where and when activity is suffering with some problems. New deadline, new task, new time to be fixed by the project manager or experienced person. Then it will also saturate the total network of the project or network analysis. It is a precaution. Otherwise, whenever you are not able to take the new deadline or not able to make the new schedule which leads to affect the another activity, then it will goes to extended continuously delay up to there is no use of network analysis in project management. Additionally, being able to identify float or slack in your projects is incredibly helpful. Spotting flexibility in your schedules means you can amend resource scheduling without needing extra client or management approval for new deadlines. Yes, it is a voluntary decision taken over by the project manager. Simply identify the delay and making of a new time or new deadline at spot without making of any further discussion. It is a need. Otherwise, a small problem will be goes to develop as a big problem. The total network diagram can be spoiled. Additionally, the new timeline planned properly. Objectives and deliverables are realistic within the new project constraints. New external vendors deliver the time, the communication between the project and the stakeholders to be made new deadline. So, at a one stage, at a one task, a delay is going. Immediately, it will go to making a new timeline. This is more helpful, particularly external vendors. They are very happy the project is going with a consent manner, with a well-maintained peoples. Then they will go to come forward and provide any resources. Next one is understanding the task position. That means delays happen any one task. It should not be continued. Here, whenever you are focused on a float, it is an opportunity, that is understanding the position or the progress of one task. Deeply study the task, immediately you know some unknown incidents, pros and cons. Cons will be goes to rectified. Deeply, one activity will be taken into consideration and analyzed properly, which is very much beneficial to take the appropriate decisions. That is, it is a project can be tweaked to account for staffing changes, resource challenges, and other foreseen situations that would otherwise lead to you involving project client and managers. That means, whenever you are identified the task of the position, when the position is very weak, immediately change of staffing, change of resources, more resources to be involved, resource challenges, optimization of resources, overcome the scarce resources, overcome the unforced situations. These are the some possibilities are happening. Further, the project manager manages key client projects. Project management responsibilities include understanding the task position, coordination and completion of projects on time, within budget and within scope, oversee all aspects of projects, set deadlines, assign responsibilities, and monitor and summarize the progress of project on task. These are the more advantages. So many advantages. Task position, identify the task position, coordination of parallel activities, how to completion of project within the limits of budget, what are the drawbacks of budgets, oversee all the aspects, which is very much useful to reconstruction of the project culture. The next one is time frames for making decisions. Yes, appropriate decisions are very much important, particularly where you are taking a large project. Then it will be goes to making a time frames with reference to delay. For example, a project is going in rainy season. Or you know heavy rains to be happened anywhere or any month. Immediately the project manager is taking a time frame regarding to so and so period rains are to be happen. Immediately before launching a project network, a decision has taken over with respect to appropriate time frame and making a more period during such a period. That is, project manager and developers use project float time, schedule the specific time of task as well as the time frames for making decisions to best ensure that the projects can in on time. Total float is the span of time between the target end date and the last task on the critical path and the target date for project completion. Free float is the time an individual task can be delayed before impacting the task that follows it. Defined as the difference between the task's earliest and the latest possible finishing date. These are the some background if you want to go to make a time frames for making a appropriate decisions with respect to procurement of the finance, procurement of the material, procurement of the labor, procurement of the any technology, etc. and etc. Why? Because it is a platform will be taken of the float, that means time delay with respect to making of so many precautions to re-establishment of the network. Next one, resources can be repurposed. Already we have resources are allocated, but those resources are not sufficient in a one's task. Immediately it will go to repurposed. Or additionally some resources are allotted or some resources are dropped because over resources are wastage, that is the reason. Resources are not properly utilized. These are all are analyzed with reference to identification of a float. That is, float can be allow more time for working on a task when necessary. Otherwise, resources can be repurposed for another task. Employees working within multiple teams can put more time into other tasks that are lagging. Yes, where lagging is delay. Where lagging is there, a more time to be allotted by the experts. Further, total float is often represented as a positive or negative number, representing the number of days. Negative float, also known as negative slack, is the amount of time delay on project schedule completion that a task required. Yes, represented by positive or negative float. Positive float is well and good, no problem. The problem is negative float, that means minus. This can be identified and taken a appropriate solution. Let us go to another area in this roof is types of floats. This is very much important in the examination point of view. There are many floats can be identified while executing the project or a network analysis. The first type is total float. Float means total float. That means the amount of time that scheduled activity can be delayed or extended from its early start date without delaying the project finishing date or violating a schedule constraint. Mathematically, total float equal to latest starting time and earliest starting time. Or sometimes earliest starting time and earliest finishing time. These are also taken into the consideration. Both are different. Either one. Majority cases, total float equal to latest starting time minus earliest starting time. That is, it is owned by the project and can be consumed either by owner or contractor on a first come first serve basis. Because of this fact, contractor often hit the total float by extending their activities in the schedule, manipulating the critical path. Project can be consumed either by owner or contractor. This is a time delay with respect to the problem of owner or contractor. That means there is not given a proper time to completion of the activity, and also there is no permission as given by the owner, etc. and etc. Any delay on the critical path delayed by the owner or external factors may give entailment or to extension of time and can be added strategic benefits. That means here, latest starting time and earliest starting time is a gap. This gap is generally created by the owner or contractor. The next type, free float. The float to be happen when a time delay is early start time. That means the early start time is not properly started. In time, the activity was not started, consisting of some problem. That is, the amount of time that a scheduled activity can be delayed without delaying the early start date of any successor or violating a schedule constraint. Means early start date of successor activity may not be within a time. A gap is happened. The gap is called free float. Mathematically, it will be identified as free float equal to total float minus head event slack. Head event slack. I will go to explain head event slack. Further, it can be consumed by its precedence activity. If they delay, you could say it's owned by the precedence activity as much as it's owned by the activity itself. Where the successor activity was not started within a scheduled time, this is the problem of precedence activity affected. The float consumable by precedence activities is schematically referred to as the free float late in figure 1. That means the figure will go to explain in the next page. Full consumption makes the observed activity critical. The next one is interfering float. The float time delay to be happened at early start date without delaying the project finishing date. That means activity delayed amount of free and interfering float. That means a gap between total float and free float is called interfering float. That is, the amount of time that a scheduled activity can be delayed or extended from its early start date without delaying the project finishing date. But delaying an activity into interfering float will be delayed the start of one or more following non-critical activities. If your activity is delayed from the amount of the free and interfering float, its success activity are critical. That means mathematically interfering float is total float minus free float. Both are calculated in above, both are substituted in this equation. Further, the activities further up in the schedule logic will not be able to start on their early start date, but it will not become critical until all interfering float has been consumed. This could lead to complex discussions concerning responsibilities in claim analysis. The next one is independent float. That means a delay or a critical activity to be happened with reference to precedence activity. That means the precedence activity is affected by any natural or non-natural causes. This is known as independent float. The float will not be affected to successor activity. The float is limited to a one task. It's called independent float. That is, the maximum amount of time an activity can be delayed without delaying the early start of the succeeding activities and without being affected by the allowable delay of any precedence activity. Mathematically, independent float equal to free float minus tail event slack. I will go to explain tail event. Further, when the result is negative value, we set the value to 0. The float is the most restricted float and thus the one genuinely owned by the activity and its owner. The consumption of the independent float does not affect the surrounding activities. Already I said, should not be affected the succeeding activity or surrounding activities, either in dates or any possible way. We will go to refer the one example, then it will go to get a better understanding. That is, this is a problem. A project schedule has the following characteristics. Activity 1-2, 1-4, 1-7, 2-3, 3-4, 4-5, 4-8, 5-6, 6-9, 7-8, 8-9. Duration weeks or months 2, 2, 1, 4, 1, 5, 8, 4, 3, 3, 10. Construct the network diagram and calculate flows. Now construction of the network diagram. Now 1-2 like this, 1-2, 2, 1-4, 2. 1-7, this is a 7, like that I was constructed a network diagram. Now here I was calculated early start and latest started values. Already in the previous video I have explained. Here at the starting early start time at event 1 0, latest starting time at event 1 0, bluntly zeros. Last is critical path value. These are we have taken into consideration like this. Now I said at the time of interfering float, at the time of independent float, mathematically independent float equal free float minus tail event time, tail event slack, free float minus tail event slack. Now here slack means 7 minus 2, slack is 5. Latest starting time minus earliest starting time, slack is 2. That means here 7 minus 2 equal to 5. 1-2 here total float minus 5 is called slack. Tail event slack. This is head event slack. Tail event slack means here latest starting time 0, earliest starting time 0, difference is 0. Let's go to see here. Head event slack. Here 11 minus 6, 5. Tail event slack here 5. Now head event slack here 8 minus 7, 1. Tail event slack here 2 minus 2, 0. Now here 10 minus 10. Head event slack is 0. This is tail. This is head event. This is tail event. Here slack is 7 minus 1, 6. Like that. Calculated head event slack and tail event slacks, those are substituted while calculating the independent float and as well as interfering float. Let's go to given here how to calculate the EST and LST, forward passing method. Already I was explaining above. At early start time at event 1 0, bluntly 0. At event 2 2. This is 2. Here 2. This is 2. Here 2-3 early start time 2 plus 4 6. Forward passing method like that. And backward passing method LST. Last, that means right to left is called backward passing method. 15 minus 15 0, bluntly 0. The last activity is 0. Next, latest starting time at event 8, 15 minus 5. This is here. At 8, this is 8. Total 15 minus 5. This is a 5. Like that. We will go to calculate all above. In case, in forward passing method, more than 2 characteristics are available. In such situation, highest characteristics has taken into consideration. In case of backward passing method, least characteristics are taken into consideration. That means more than one paths are linked with one event. Next, we will go to calculate the total float, free float, independent flows and interfering flows. Yet 1-2 total float LST minus EST 5. Like that here. Free float, total float at slack of head event. That means before slack. Like that. Interfering float, free float minus tail event slack. That means before slack. Interfering float. That means total float minus free float. These are the floats we will go to calculated with the help of the slacks. Already we know slack means when you are taking into latest starting time minus earliest starting time. Slack is 0. This is tail. This is head. Slack is here 5. In case this one. Here tail event slack for this. Tail event slack is 5. Head event slack is 5. 11 minus 6. All are substituted in the diagram. Then it goes to calculated total float, free float, independent float and interfering float. Thank you.